All right, everybody, welcome back to the AFC Northcast. This week, this episode, we're going to be reviewing NFL Week 9. So that's right, we're halfway done with the season for everybody. Everybody's gone halfway through. And now we kind of have a better scope and a better picture of what these teams really are. Some of us are happy, some of us not so much. And that's what we'll be here to talk about this week. We also have, you'll notice that we have 4 boxes now. We added a box. What's this, right? Well, we have Dylan joining us to talk about the Patriots. Finally, after teasing him for weeks and weeks on end, we finally have him. Welcome to the podcast, Dylan.
Oh, yeah, man. Just glad we can make the schedule work.
Yeah, finally. Right. Other than that, I'm Justin, of course, joined with Joey in the top left and Chad in the bottom left. If you didn't know that, if you're listening to this on a podcast and you're thinking to yourself, what's top left, bottom left? Well, we are doing this live right now. We're doing it live via Facebook, via Twitch, via YouTube. We do it twice a week, so join us, join the conversation, get some good interactions with us. It'll be fun. Twice a week, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesdays, Thursdays. This week we got another shitty Thursday night game. I don't know who makes these schedules, but next week we have a fantastic Thursday night game. So we'll be podcasting at the time that game is going to be happening. So it'll be good stuff. It'll be good fun. If you're going to catch a live one, that's definitely the one to catch. But not really any heavy news for us to talk about AFC North wise. So we're actually just going to roll straight into the game. Joey can barely contain himself. Are you still reading the tweets?
No, I just stumbled upon the Baker Mayfield looks like memes from his pea coat and
disheveled
sad
memes.
mustache.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield looks like he's not allowed within 500 feet of a school zone.
Right.
Your dad who went out for cigarettes and never came back.
Oh.
Baker Mayfield looks like he took 4th place in a Gardner Minshew costume contest. Baker Mayfield looks like the guy everyone thinks is a serial killer in a horror movie. Baker Mayfield looks like Cleveland has aged him in dog years.
Oh, it's sad.
Baker Mayfield looks like he just said, "I have nothing left, Karen. Let me see the kid."
No.
Baker Mayfield looks like Monday morning.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. We'll get to the Browns and their I don't know, Browns-ness. Whatever. We'll get to that shortly. Chad, you just cracked one open. What are you drinking this week? You always got something interesting.
I'm drinking Super Funk.
What the fuck is that?
Rush Brewery. It's a great brewery that primarily does sour beers. I thought a couple of us might have a sour taste in our mouths, Justin, after this week's games. So this barrel-aged sour golden ale is for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that in my honor. That you pick beers thinking about me.
You know, it's just, we're a team here. We're like a family. We're like a family of competing siblings, and someone's got to lose.
Right. Someone's always got to get the one that just gets fucking beat up on every week.
Yeah. It's not a good look for him to drink dog shit on the podcast, so that's the next best thing, sour beers.
That's a pretty hurtful and uneducated opinion on really crap products that I have here. So that's fine.
I think it was more of a jab at me. Like, since you're drinking with me, with me in mind, you can't drink dog shit. Never mind. It's all right. Anyways, yeah, let's roll into it. Let's just get right into the games, everybody. So we're going to go in order of the games this week. So the first one was the Steelers against the Colts. A pretty important game, if you ask me, for the Steelers, trying to discern exactly what their identity is against another team that's also trying to discern what their identity is. Did they luck out? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But Chad, let's hear it from you.
They didn't luck out. That's the first thing that you need to know.
Okay.
Is that this was an earned victory. There might be some things that we have to debate based on the eye roll coming from Joey. I will say this. The Steelers earned the victory, but I think there is a question. I've been calling the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals losers this season. They're teams that lose when it comes down to brass tacks. They make losing plays. And I think that the Steelers in this game, it's kind of debatable whether or not they turn. Obviously, some really big clutch plays. I thought for the most part, Mason Rudolph was pretty steady in the pocket. I think that if there's one thing that's underrated about him, I think it's his pocket poise. Although, in the biggest moment, he held onto the ball way too long and took a safety that brought the Colts to within 2 points. I thought James Washington made a big play to catch a 40-yard pass in the second half when the Steelers needed a drive. Underthrown pass. He went up and beat the safety to get it. Minka, Mother Truckin' Fitzpatrick.
Talk about value, man.
Round picks, all
Yeah.
y'all's first round picks. 96-yard motherfucking return for a touchdown after they were beat on a similar route for a touchdown earlier in the game. But then again, you've got Cam Hayward missing an easy sack on 3rd and 12. Who lets Brian Hoyer duck out of a sack when you weigh 330 pounds and you're a Pro Bowl defensive tackle? Like, are you kidding me?
Well,
that led to a touchdown.
Slow down there. Look,
Whoa.
Super Bowl champion Brian Hoyer, all right?
Damn straight.
And then you've got Tomlin. Like, it needs to just be understood that all of my people who listen to this podcast basically do not like Mike Tomlin. And this game is maybe the prototype for why. In the first quarter, you got a promising drive right into the end zone. It appears that Jalen Samuels scores a touchdown in which he rolls over Darius Leonard's arm before he's down. Mike Tomlin doesn't challenge it. They fail on the next play and then kick a field goal. So, challenge 1, Tomlin 0. Late in the game, go.
I actually think I side with Tomlin on that challenge. Not challenge though. In
That's
hindsight's 2020. I mean, you got what was it, 1st and goal or 2nd and goal from the 1?
I think that might have been on 2nd and goal, but I could be wrong on that.
I don't know.
I think they had one more play after that to get it because they were on like the 1 or half-yard line and they did not convert the next play,
Right.
and then they kicked the field goal. But yeah, you got one more play to do it. I don't blame him either, and I want you to know, of all the people, I am the Tomlin sympathizer. I am convinced he is a good coach. Don't ask me to explain it because I can't, but he is. He doesn't do X's and O's. He doesn't manage timeouts. He doesn't manage game flow. He doesn't win challenges. He just wins. Like,
Yeah,
he
just wins
the
games.
game. Like,
Which is all
I
that
don't know.
matters, right?
I agree. I want him around. Then late in the game, you've got this pass interference. I want to talk about it because I thought this was the one. I thought this was the one that was getting over. Like, you've got Stevie Nelson in coverage. You've got a terrible throw. So the receiver starts turning his head over both shoulders. He's alternating his route. He's swerving. Stevie Nelson clearly turns to play the ball. They hit each other. Stevie Nelson's arm kind of comes over, but as soon as he feels it, you can see he goes bird on it. He goes like airplane. He pulls both of his arms back. They both fall, and then the ball falls harmlessly like 10 yards past where they are. I thought that this was a non-pass interference for multiple reasons in this rule book. A, incidental contact when you're both trying to play the ball. Feet get tangled. And B, it's an uncatchable ball. I totally supported this challenge from Mike Tomlin, but I knew he was going to lose because he threw it. And this is the time, I haven't done it in a little while, but I would like to go back to my Tomlin quotes. When asked about this, he said, I know I'm running on the beach in that regard, but given the circumstances and the gravity of those plays, it was worth the risk. And what have I been telling you guys? Tomlin doesn't challenge based only on the evidence like a guy like Bill Belichick would. He challenges based on game flow and circumstance. So to him, it's just like, who knows what these idiots are going to do?
I feel almost like the challenges have turned into like a meme this year, like
Dude,
to the point where like the refs are in on the meme and they're like, we're not overturning that. Like
it only inflates Tomlin's strategy because he's been doing this for years before this was even a problem. Like that's what he does. And you saw it because on like the next play, he threw an even worse challenge on offensive pass interference. Like he pushed a little and his arm extended, but you're never, ever going to get that play. Long-winded question. Are the Steelers winners or are they still losers?
Whew. I don't know.
Strong take.
Well, I mean, like, what do you mean? Like, do you mean for the season? Do you mean, or in general? I mean, like, you know what I'm saying?
Is this a team of winners? Are they winners? Are they now winners? Have they turned the corner? Are they going to win close games? Are they going to make plays when it matters? Or are they going to lose?
I think it's tough because, like, you've got Mason Rudolph, right? And I guess I was going to turn it around on you, but I'll ask that later. But I think with Mason Rudolph right now, I mean, obviously that's like the one piece that's you're still trying to figure out. I mean, it's quarterback, right? Everything else you have together, everything else you have the capabilities, you have the skill players at the positions, and you now have a defense that's pretty fucking good, right? So it's all about how Mason Rudolph can dial in, not really make mistakes, which he didn't really make a whole lot of mistakes. Well, in the Baker Mayfield sense, he didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He and
on
you
a
know
scale
how
from 0 to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
how many
exactly.
mistakes did he make?
I'm in a case of 0 to a baker's dozen of interceptions. Anyways, so I think that it's all up to how Randy Fichtner can kind of dial in the offense with Mason Rudolph and basically not put the entire thing on his shoulders, but use him to his strengths. But I think the team as a whole still has winners on it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
I think at full strength, the Steelers are a winning team. I think they missed James Conner a lot. I didn't think they did very much.
Right, but what's his name had like a massive run early in the game, right? It was for like 60, 70 yards, something like that.
Trey Edmonds. Yeah.
Trey Edmonds, that's right.
From?
I don't know.
The University of Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you made a big deal about it, that's probably what I would guess.
The defense carried this game. And special teams even with the fumble on the punt return that gave the offense a short field and an opportunity for some points. You know, it's all part of the game and all the phases flow off of each other. But Minka's pick six, short field on the muff punt, like that right there won the Steelers the game. In my eyes, the Steelers defense dominated and the Steelers offense didn't do much to me, which is hard when you're starting running backs Jalen Samuels and Trey Edmonds is getting significant touches, and Mason Rudolph's making his 4th career start or whatever it is.
So that's true, but I think it's also, don't overshadow the idea that against the Colts defense, the Colts defense is really good. Mason Rudolph still threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah, it was over 200. Yeah, it was barely over 200. He averaged probably 5 yards of completion. It was kind of a typical.
Right. So I don't know where the Colts are statistically, but I will say that last year they were an incredible defense, and they didn't really have much degradation from last year. If anything, that their stats are showing any downside, it's because their offense is still kind of putting themselves together, right? So it's probably leaving the defense on the field maybe more often. But I don't think the Colts defense is anything to shake a stick at.
Yeah, I think that's.
They're not. I mean, they're not bad. They've got Darius Leonard is really, really good. They've got Justin Houston now who's been killing it. They're ranked 14th in total defense, so a little bit better than right in the middle. They're not killers, but the Ravens are 15th, so they're in that same kind of category.
They're average.
Right,
they're
but again,
18th in run, 15th in pass. They're good, but
I think they're also getting a lot of play time too, though,
this year.
Right?
So, based on what you guys said,
but they probably haven't played anybody, right, Justin?
I don't know. I'm about to look it up right now.
They've played people, and they tend to play their best games against people, like the Chiefs, who they beat.
I mean, they played the Titans. They only beat them by 2 points. No,
they did beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, they beat the Chiefs.
They beat Houston.
Also,
they beat
Brian
UC.
Hoyer played most of this game, guys.
Right. Let's not.
So that
let
helps.
us not forget.
But yeah,
For,
but it's
like
a home
Super Bowl
game.
champion Brian Hoyer. All right.
Damn straight.
It's a home game against a team with a winning record, which, if you ask Kirk Cousins, not an easy feat to be the team with a winning record.
Right.
So, I mean, Mason did enough.
For sure.
Juju cost them on a very, very catchable ball early in the game that led to an interception that he dropped. So, I mean, that's not on Mason Rudolph. He put that ball, it was in Juju's hands, and it wasn't an incredibly difficult catch to make. It
was actually a really good
bounced
throw.
out.
Threw it in between coverage, down the field a little bit, right in the middle of the field, in the exact area that before the last podcast I said this is where I want Mason to throw a better ball. And Juju just didn't make a play for him. I think I'm gonna say this one serious thing, and then I'd like to talk about Quentin Nelson briefly, both positively and in shame that Cam Hayward put on him. I think what I learned about the Steelers, and I don't love saying this because I'm perennially confident that the Steelers can win the division, and they still might. But basically, if I'm Joey right now, I feel like this is my division. I own it. I own this division. The Steelers just didn't necessarily improve for the first time in about a month. So basically, if what they're good for is to compete against like a sort of borderline maybe playoff team, then you're just not really scared of them. Like maybe
I mean, on that note too, like Indy's a good team, but point one, it was Brian Hoyer for most of the game, and wasn't Ty out too?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're not a playoff. That's not a playoff team with Hoyer and no Ty.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they were with Brissett, and the Steelers didn't have Connor, so I'm sort of calling the injuries a
No
wash.
starting center most of the game.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to discount the Steelers. It was a good win, and their defense is very obviously a dominant unit.
I just think that that's the point, like the Colts are at best like a sort of lower tier playoff team, and the Steelers struggled to win the game, which I think we knew was going to happen. We knew it would happen maybe with T.Y. Hilton. We still suspected without that it would not be an easy game. It proved not to be an easy game. Even if the Steelers do a couple things better, it's still basically a one-score game. I think that this is a team that, as I've been promising, even when they were 0-3, is a competitive team. They will play good teams competitively, but they're not right now like a threat to win the Super Bowl unless they just get super lucky, or they continue to get a lot better, which for the first time in a while they didn't necessarily show. One thing though, before I make fun of Quentin Nelson, I want to talk about Mason because everybody's talking about how he's the worst and he stinks and blah, blah, blah. He threw the ball downfield a little this game, but not much. I would say on first watch, it was a regression. Check down Charlie threw the ball to Jalen Samuels 13 times. And it actually became a problem in the second half, which is why I had a problem with it. Because in the first half, it was great. The Steelers were moving the ball. Like, I don't care. Tom Brady does that shit all the time, and they call him a genius. So, like, as long as you're moving the ball, I don't care. But in the second half, the Colts locked in on it, and it became a real problem. So I went back, and for the first time, thank you, baby, for taking a nice nap today. I watched the All-22 a little bit, and I also listened to a little bit of a post-game interview with Mason. So the Colts were playing extremely soft coverage early in the game. They were giving those underneath throws, and so he took them. There wasn't a lot down the field to get. And actually, the first time that they got a safety creeping up is when, in the second half, he threw to James Washington in single coverage. And it wasn't a great throw, but James Washington made a contested catch. And if you watch the throw again, Pouncey was getting pushed back into the pocket, so Mason couldn't really take a full step forward into the throw. That happens to a lot of quarterbacks, not the ones with the strongest arms maybe, but it would have been tough to get it ahead of him. And that's basically what I noticed when I watched the All-22 later. Mason did miss a couple downfield receivers. Ironically, one of them was Jalen Samuels in the end zone, but it was on the tight end touchdown. He threw but pre-goal line to Vance, who had to break a few tackles. But Jalen was actually wide open deeper in the end zone. So acknowledging that Mason needs to read the field a little better, but a couple of those deep receivers were on plays where it was like a design screen pass. One of them, who was it? Dan Fouts, that schmuck. I hated him. He was pissing me off so much. Saying that Mason missed a deep receiver down the field when it was like clearly a design screen play. It's like, dude, you're letting the whole pass rush come at you so you can loft the ball over him deliberately on a screen. You're not looking to throw the ball all the way down the field. So stop being an idiot. Talk like you're in the Hall of Fame. Mason wasn't perfect. He's got a lot to improve on. And I don't think he improved this game like he has in previous games. But I'm still confident that he can win games. And if the Ravens slip, can take this team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys want to shit on Mason Rudolph?
No, not really. I think that ultimately my sentiment wrapping it all up is that it's a good moral victory for Steelers fans. But I think the game was so very close in out of their grasp on three very big decisive things that all happened that could have lost the Steelers. It was like someone was on their side on Sunday at 1:00. But, we'll see what kind of happens next week as they, kind of go a little tougher with their opponents, even though the Rams are still actually kind of questionable. But yeah, I mean, all you really hope to see is Mason Rudolph continue to grow. It's still his first year, right? You can't expect him to just come out and ball out like a stud. I mean, if he did, whatever, that's great. I guess everybody missed it. But all you're looking for is for improvements. And like you said, he didn't really improve that much against the Colts. But, I mean, hey, he's getting experience.
Yeah, I think you got the feeling in the second quarter that the Steelers, it was just going to be one of those games that the Steelers were going to find a way to win between the pick six, the punt fumble, the last play of the second quarter, having the late hit penalty, and then kicking the field goal to make it a 3-point game. And that's one thing. It's Frank Reich, the culture is supposed to be a really well-coached team, and they made a lot of really stupid penalties in this game. 2 late hits on Leonard. Mm-hmm. And all the feels like the Steelers are going to win this game kind of culminated with the greatest kicker of all time missing a relatively easy field goal.
Laces out, man.
Laces out.
Laces out.
Laces out.
Yeah. Fun fact, Pat McAfee talks about it all the time. Lace position is actually on the snapper, not the holder.
Interesting. I didn't know
that. The holder spins the ball the same amount every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be on the snapper to get the laces right.
I have one. Since you're not going to let me make fun of Quentin Nelson, you're trying to close me out on this game already, even though Quentin Nelson got just butchered by both Ola Adiani on Minka's awesome pickoff return and then Cam Hayward, and I would talk about it all day if it didn't lead to an injury. Pancaked, motherfucker. You got pancaked. Anyway, I have a stat. The Steelers, before Minka Fitzpatrick was on the field, gave up a passer rating of 141.4 yards. 141.4 passer rating on deep balls. First 2 games. Since Minka has been on the team, they have a passer rating on the same type of passes, 10.8.
I mean, that's a return. So let me ask you this, actually. Was anybody in the Steelers fan base that you know of upset about a first round pick for Minka?
Yeah. I mean, okay, none of my friends, but I'd say the media. I'd say the professional media, including the Pittsburgh media, was at worst very critical of it and at best wary. The Steelers are a team that builds through the draft, and as you guys maybe know or heard, they hadn't given up a first-round pick since 1960-something. You control a first-round pick for 5 years as opposed to 4. That's the advantage of having a first-round pick. That's why the Ravens traded into the first round for Lamar Jackson. That's why it's really smart. So it was a big deal. I personally was very supportive of it because the Steelers needed a safety, and they have proven time and time again that it was one position that they didn't seem to be able to draft well. So how about you pay the same price for a guy that we already know is a Pro Bowl player? And that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what they got. And now everybody's obviously
right. Well, so we'll see how the Steelers clean up, I guess, next week against the Rams. I think that'll be an interesting test for Mason Rudolph. Again, I don't think that they're necessarily going to be making the playoffs. If they do somehow by some shadow of some crazy instance, I don't think anybody's really afraid of them. But I think what you're trying to get out of this season is just, how much can you get out of Mason Rudolph? And which is, I guess, interesting because you still don't even know what's going on with Ben Roethlisberger, but,
Dude, I get it. You're coming along on the Steelers slow. This would be a good time for you to potentially rank the Steelers ahead of the Browns in the division, which you should have been doing at the midway point of the season when they had the same record. Would you like to apologize for that?
Not yet.
Maneuver?
Not yet.
Okay.
Actually, no, never to the Steelers. But
one
anyways,
more thing.
What's up?
Oh, no, that's actually about the Browns. I'm sorry.
Oh, fuck. Well, let's segue that into the Browns. So the Browns went to Denver this week and played the Broncos, a game that most people expected the Browns to win, or at least if they didn't expect them to win, said this was a quote-unquote must-win football game, which I would have agreed if I was on the podcast last week. I think it would have. It's a very important game to show that the Browns have some sort of improvement, that they can play against a team that's really so minus.
If you listened to the podcast last week,
so I actually listened to bits and pieces of it. By the way,
we
not the whole thing all the way
identified
through.
it not as a must-win, rather as a can't lose.
That's right. No, I do remember you saying that now. And I remember both of you actually picked the Browns too, so maybe that's what the problem was.
It was a can't-lose game.
Yeah. So
who's picking the Broncos with Brandon Allen?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good point. Well, all y'all were fools because if you didn't know already, the Browns lost by 5 points to the Broncos, 19-24. Man, so where do you start? So the first thing I want to talk about is the Browns as a team. They're not as a team, the Browns are failing to improve. And that's what I think is the worst part of this entire experience. Well, I would say the second worst part of the experience. The first worst part is the fact that there was actually like a semblance of hope this year, right? Whereas the other years you like trick yourself into hoping and you're like, nah, man, we got something going for us, right? So when they fall short, you're just like, well, whatever. We kind of really knew it, right? But this year, that's what makes it worse. But anyways, what really piles on it is the lack of improvement every week. From the play calling to the defense playing this like super soft man that's just like getting people wide the fuck open. It's tough. The one thing I will say that has improved, which I don't know, maybe this is a mildly lukewarm, slightly hot take, is that Baker Mayfield has been kind of improving the last couple of games. All right. So his interceptions are down, right? Which is good. His completion percentage has been continuously going up. His yards have been going up, and it's looking more and more like a lot of the faults of Baker Mayfield in this game specifically, and also something that looking back is that Baker, so first off, the play calling doesn't help at all, but I think we talked about that last week a little bit. But Baker is also on this, like, I have to save the game, like, mentality, right? He's got these easy completions that can be just a simple first down to move the ball down the field, but he's just like, nah, man, I got a 25-yard pass in the end zone that's in, like, triple coverage, but I think I can squeeze that in there. And that's causing problems, right? That's why, that touchdown wasn't caught in the first half, right? After the one from Demetrius Harris got called back. I think Baker Mayfield's got too much on his shoulders right now, or thinks that he needs to put too much on his shoulders right now, which is causing a lot of those problems as far as him not. Because now it looked like there was a couple of situations where there were some checkdowns that he just didn't take, and he just didn't go for it. one of the big things that the media is going on about right now is this Odell Beckham pass that was completely missed up the left-hand side. And I would even call it completely missed, right? The dude was like right on his back, right? And sure, the whole you got to trust your playmakers and put it in the hands of your playmakers. And, Odell Beckham should be able to beat him out and catch that ball. But there's been a lot of balls like that this year that Odell Beckham has not caught, right? Baker Mayfield has had these opportunities with him that have thrown some very complete catchable balls to Odell Beckham, and he's not had these like spectacular catches that people expected from him this season. So I think it's reasonable to believe that either the faith is breaking down between the two of them, or maybe even we just don't know the playbook and he just wasn't in the read, right? Which obviously that's on Baker to be able to analyze the field a little bit more, right? But I think that as much as Baker Mayfield is still not the Baker Mayfield of last year, I think that there is some improvements that he's getting. The Broncos kind of miffed themselves early on with an interception for Baker Mayfield. So they kind of hurt themselves on that. But hey, look, 0 interceptions. For the first time this season, Baker Mayfield threw 0 interceptions in a football game. That's an improvement for me.
As far as the OBJ thing goes, it looked like Odell signaled to Baker before the snap that he knew it was going to be one-on-one coverage. And I almost think it's worse if Baker decided, like, oh, I don't trust OBJ, because he turned down OBJ in a one-on-one to like jam it into Jarvis in double coverage over the middle. Like, that's not a good read. So it's easy to pinpoint one play, but one play is not what did it. I'm still concerned about where the fuck is Rashard Higgins. There's one point in the game, late in the game, I think it was like the third quarter, where the Browns were in 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers, and Daryl Hodge was in the slot.
Yep.
And Rashard Higgins was on the sideline. It's like, what could, like, if just deal him or something, cut him,
right?
Fake an injury and put him on the IR. Like, if you're going to activate Rashard Higgins, the player on your team who's shown the most chemistry with Baker, like, it's mind-blowing to me how he can't find the field. But that being said, I thought Odell had maybe his best game as a Brown.
Yeah, which is weird because he was complaining a ton. He was like, oh, I can't get the ball, blah, blah, blah. But he had a decent game.
Yeah, part of that is just losing too, man. Losing wears on people. And everybody wants to point at like Odell Beckham being angry on the sideline. But given Odell Beckham's history, that was very surprised? Tame. No. I mean, it wasn't theatrics. It wasn't anything crazy. He was just standing on the sideline, fucking angry because you're about to be 2-6 and you just lost to the Broncos and Brandon Allen, who hasn't thrown a competitive football pass in like 2 years. Like, that shit sucks, man. What do you want him? If he was joking around on the sidelines, everybody would be shitting on Odell for not caring enough. So he can't win. This team, I don't know. Coaching's the only thing you could point to. They're making this. You said they're making the same mistakes.
Right.
The tackling still stinks. And there's no improvement. Nothing's changed. Nick Chubb only had 20 carries in this game. Like,
and the thing is that he did, but it was only 65 yards. So, the Broncos have a good defense. It's not enough, but
it's plenty. It's plenty. 20 carries over 16 games is 320 carries in a year. You don't want to do that to a player, especially against the Broncos,
especially if you're not going to win now.
It's not the volume, but weren't there like 2 key third downs or maybe a third down
and a
fourth
so there was
down?
two
in
a row.
Hilliard.
Yep. 2 in a row. So it was 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 1. So 3rd and 1 they ran Hilliard, and then 4th and 1 they tried to do a QB sneak with Baker Mayfield. And it's like you have 2 opportunities to give, one of the, at least like let's say the top 5. Let's be generous and say one of the top 5 running backs in the league right now. I think that's generous. Whatever. And you're not going to give him the ball on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. Like, how do you not do that? So apparently,
they gave him the ball on 3rd and 1 in the last drive. It was a stretch play. He got blown up for a
stuffed.
3-yard loss.
So that one, you're gonna discount that both of those, that third and fourth, earlier in the game because on one play he got stuffed on a third and one.
I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying you don't do the same thing every time. Nothing works every time.
You're right. You don't do something every single time, but at least if you have the opportunity to do it in smart situations more often than not, and you know you're going to go for it on fourth down, then at least give them a shot.
That's what they did.
Well, it's
later
not
in the
like
game.
it's not like they did something different too. Like if they had thrown a screen to Hilliard, then sure, but they ran Hilliard up the middle. Like why would you not have Chubb in that situation?
Well, Freddie Kitchens' response to that was that he thought that by putting Hilliard in the game, that they would get more of like a pass protection look because they would have expected like a screen or something like that, and it would have been easier for Hilliard to run up the middle. Now, that's like on everyone on the field to notice that and say like no, they stuffed the box, like we're not going to be able to run it up the middle and change the play. But I don't know. I don't know if like there's no chemistry there, or if maybe Baker's not allowed to do that anymore, because he was doing that last year. He was changing plays on the fly. He did it in the preseason, and he was successful with all that stuff. So I don't know. But anyways, I think I talked about it. I don't remember if I talked to you about it offline or if it was just early in the preseason. But this was also a thing with me with like Todd Monken too. So Todd Monken with the Buccaneers, like I get it, Jameis Winston is no stud by any means, but you still have, what's his name? Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, two like electric receivers on the same fucking football team, and you can't win football games, right? Because you have these simple ass schemes where you just got two fast guys running straight up the field. And what are they doing in Cleveland? It looks like the same kind of shit. So as much as sure Freddie Kitchens could be to blame for the simplistic and bad play calling, he's using Todd Monken's plays, which is on him, I guess, to say like, no, these plays are garbage. But between the two of them, they got to figure something out. Or I think John Dorsey needs to figure something out.
How does Freddie Kitchens coach the Browns tight end to not just jump out of the end zone when he's wide open?
I don't know.
How does Freddie Kitchens coach this stuff? How does Freddie Kitchens coach Jermaine Whitehead to wrap up? How does Freddie Kitchens coach a guy to not jump off sides?
You can get so specific with it like that, or you can take it as a bigger issue, which is what it is, in that entire team is disorganized. Nothing about the Browns has like there's no organization to anything that they do, and it's all a symptom of that, and that's because of Freddie.
I mean, we talked about Mike Tomlin, about how you feel he's a good coach, and then you said, but he doesn't do this coach responsibility very well. He doesn't do this very well. He doesn't do this very well. But he leads the team well, and they're disciplined. Like they have a good. It's cheap, but they have a good culture. Like they are winners. And the Browns don't have that. Like they still have. It's almost like the individuals are greater than the team still a little bit. Even with Baker last year, it was like, oh, the Browns are Baker Mayfield.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. I just don't know where else to point. Like,
it just seems like it's a coach who's over his head. Like you can even look, just bring it back to the Patriots game, like something as simple as those. I'm sure you guys talked about it. If you didn't, I'm sure you saw it at least. The overhead shots of the sidelines, and the Browns are just fucking everywhere on their sideline. And then you look at the Patriots, and it's everyone's, way back where they're supposed to be. It's just a complete like lack of discipline and lack of organization.
Classic Patriots propaganda. I knew you were gonna. 12
I don't even mean it in that kind of thing. That's the thing, though, is like I'm not even trying to prop them up. It's just again like another symptom of this guy who I still can never take seriously after watching him on their YouTube series brag to some dude about how he thought he was so smart because they put a fullback out wide.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that Freddie Kitchens is a good coach, and maybe this is the Steelers fan in me that you don't fire head coaches, especially after the first year, and maybe not ever. But like, here's some coaching. 7 out of Cleveland's 10 drives made it inside the 30. That means that they were calling good plays and moving the ball all game. How come Freddie Kitchens isn't getting any credit for those play calls?
Because you got to win games to get credit.
I'm not finished.
They
Denver.
lost
Do you know
to
how
the
many times
Broncos.
Denver made it into the red zone? 0. Now, they made big plays and scored touchdowns anyway. But, like, some of this is players. Players have to tackle. Players have to catch. Your best player, Nick Chubb, has to not fumble 3 times on key plays. Like, Freddie Kitchens can't coach all that away. And I've been listening to his press conferences and following him since preseason. Freddie Kitchens is doing things that demand team organization at a higher level than probably the Browns have had in years. So the question is do you give Freddie Kitchens any time to change a culture that has a serious stink on it, or do you demand the impossible from someone else?
So I'm not completely off the train with you as far as like the idea of that some of the onus is on players at some point, right? But to me, the thing that I just cannot get past is this simplistic and bad calling of plays, bad decision makings at game time on the field, and things like that, right? So that's what's really hurting me. So if he was to relinquish play calling, or was to have relinquished play calling earlier in the season, and all of this was Todd Monken's, scheme, style, setup, whatever, I might be singing a different tune and might not be down Freddie Kitchens' throat. But to me, like, what happens on the field is telling. And the inability of them to get, even like the inability of them to get guys open, like, ever, is like astonishing. Like, nobody's ever open on any play, And then again, like I said, just recently there was like 2 or 3 plays that there was like a check down, but it was late in the game and they were behind. So Baker's like, I got to save the ship, and makes bad decisions, but whatever, right? That's what's killing it for me, is that, look, man, you can be Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, whatever, right? But if you can't put good plays on the field so that people have opportunities to catch footballs or to make, to score points, like, I don't know what to tell you. You can bring up the Broncos game, the one game against the Broncos where they made it to the red zone a bunch of times, but didn't score any touchdowns save for one, right? But that doesn't mean anything. You can travel down the field for, 500 yards in a single game, but if you can't score any touchdowns, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter.
I'm going to make one last point, and look, I get it. Freddie Kitchens doesn't appear to be on his way to being a top 5 NFL coach this year, or maybe even next.
Competent is the word you're looking for.
I don't know that he's incompetent yet. I'm not as convinced as everybody else, and maybe I'm just wrong, and that's fine. But I will say this. It's possible that this is stunting Baker Mayfield's growth as a superstar quarterback. But you know what stunts every single superstar young quarterback's growth? Changing head coaches and offensive coordinators every year. None of them are ever good when you do this. None. I don't care how much potential they have. They are always bad. So
look at Mariota and Jameis.
At some point, you have to say, this guy may not be perfect, but we need some sort of consistency. And I think, personally, that Freddie Kitchens, in his first year, is moving the culture in the right direction enough that I would let him finish the year. I would get in there if I'm Dorsey or whoever's kind of above him. I'd say, we're going to look real hard at offensive coordinator, and we're going to pick a guy that you like enough that you can let him do that. All of it. You're not doing that next year because we need you focused more on this other stuff because it didn't happen last year. Or maybe they do better for the second half of the year and you give him another shot at calling the plays. But I just think that there's one thing that always kills young quarterbacks, and that's what the Browns are right now. You can talk about all their star players, but without Baker, they're back in the trash heap immediately. You need some sort of consistency. So if you get rid of Kitchens, you better be ready to stick with the next guy.
So I agree with you, because I like toil with this in my head of like, how many times you're just going to keep firing head coaches? Like, how many times is this going to happen, right? But and again, so let's compartmentalize that into 2 separate things: the play calling and the culture. So as far as the culture goes, like, I don't know what it is that you're seeing that's making this seem like it's all of a sudden everything's cleaned up and the Browns are moving in the right direction. Not to say that you're wrong.
Penalties,
What's that?
as opposed to 18.
Oh, okay. So 5 versus 18. So they did have fewer offensive penalties. I actually don't think they had any offensive penalties in one game. But anyways, so the other thing, as far as like the play calling, or whatever goes, yeah, I'm done with Todd Monken if that's his offense or his style, and I am okay with your proposed situation of keep Freddie Kitchens in there to, I guess, continue to improve the culture because he's a Parcells guy or whatever, right? But relinquish this play calling to somebody else or whatever, or just get a new offensive coordinator or whatever it is. I don't know. To me, like, also in the same boat, how do you say, well, yeah, changing quarterbacks or offensive coordinators or head coaches is bad for the growth of a quarterback, but also having bad ones is bad for the growth of a quarterback as well. So I don't know where the fine line is. I don't know where the middle ground is. You're right. We'll see more as the season goes on and how things improve or don't improve, and we'll have a better picture of that towards the end. But I think you make some good points. And yeah, last thing I wanted to talk about was, we'll just do it real quick because we're spending way too much time on the Browns right now. But I wanted to say that, yeah, the Browns coverage early in the game was like good in like the first half of the first quarter, and then after that, like everything fell apart. The tackling was awful. They were playing such like soft, and it looked like soft man. It was not zone. At least it didn't look like zone to me. And like they were just leaving dudes open. I don't understand. Like Denzel Ward playing like 5 yards off of somebody. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. The defensive line still did great because the defensive line just rushes like crazy and they're fantastic. And then the offensive line still needs to improve. It just is what it is. So, because like that thing that I sent you guys earlier made a perfect point, is that they're trying to let too many plays develop downfield, and the offensive line, you're right, it's not the worst offensive line in football, but it's not a good enough offensive line to let these deep plays develop. They're just not good enough to let them develop that way. So,
Justin, now that we've given a good synopsis of the state of your Browns, I believe you received a double or nothing bet opportunity on Facebook from one Sean Prano. Would you like to take him up on double or nothing for 8 wins? And before you respond, I know Sean well, and I'm pretty sure if you offer him 7 wins, he'll take it.
So first off, I actually, like, I'm not just saying this. I actually thought it was for 8 wins. Like, I thought that was actually the thing. Like
9.
No, I thought it. I'm saying that I will concede to the fact that maybe it was 9, but I honestly thought it was 8 wins. So that's kind of strange to me, but I know I have a bad memory, so I'll take it. As far as doubling down at this point, nah, man. Like, after seeing the Browns like not improve against a team that they should have improved against, and again they like barely improved again. So fewer offensive penalties, no interceptions by Baker Mayfield, even though there should have been an interception, right? They're just not improving stoutly enough. Do I honestly believe that the Browns have the ability to be 500 or more by the end of the season? I think that they still have a chance to. But am I the type of person to bet on the Browns right now? No, not really. Not at this moment, at least. Come back to me in 2 to 3 games.
5-3.
But yeah.
5-3 gets them to 7-9.
It looks promising. Look, man, I'm not a betting man. All right, Joey, you can take it for me. I don't know. But unless, Joey, you have anything, you've been pretty quiet. So unless, Joey, you've got something to say, we can move it over.
Jermaine Whitehead is an idiot and probably a racist. But he got cut after the game for threatening fans.
And more than just fans, basically everybody.
And everybody.
Yeah. We were going to do like...
Because I was probably the highest on Jermaine Whitehead podcast throughout the year.
I know.
I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It really kind of is.
Maybe he can be Minka's understudy in Pittsburgh.
Doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't think there's value in having a spy from the other side?
We'll wait a couple weeks.
Tell me about Ufamba Kamalu, Joey. Tell me what you know about him. The Patriots practice squad player that the Ravens signed the week before.
The Ravens
Good old
are
Ufamba.
Anemic on the defensive line, and it was probably twofold.
Ufamba, dude.
He was
inactive, by the way.
Yeah, he was inactive. He might play some guy Ward that was active instead this week, but I mean, pretty much week to week. I don't think that he was like if anything, old boy special teamer Justin whatever was probably
it's a conspiracy.
More a spy.
Absolutely.
A conspiracy to win.
So yeah, let's roll it over.
Fair enough segue.
Yeah.
So in broadcast meetings this past week, the ESPN crew was talking to John Harbaugh, and they were talking about the construction of this Ravens roster. And Chad, I don't know if you caught this. It's flashed maybe a little smile. Maybe you did catch it. John Harbaugh said that the Ravens roster is constructed with two things in mind: beating the Steelers and beating the Patriots, which is basically the most respect you could pay to those two organizations. That's all the Ravens care about when they are making decisions like that. So I talked last week about, I've been beating the drum for a while about the quarterbacks that the Pats have played this year and this and that. I don't buy into the spin zone of Belichick was vanilla on purpose or not 100% invested in the game because he didn't want to show his hand and he wanted to save it for the playoffs. Because if you saw on the very first drive of the game, when the Ravens had like a 4th and 4 and were attempting a field goal, and old boy jumped into the neutral zone and gave the Ravens a 1st and goal, Bill Belichick called his defensive linemen fucking assholes. They caught it on camera on Sunday Night Football. But obviously, the story of this game, more than anything, was Lamar performing against this potentially, legendary Patriots defense.
Air quotes.
He just puts you in positions where you can't win. You can't make the right decision because of the way that this offense is built when they're running jet sweep motion with read option type shit. Like, it's just really hard to defend. And Belichick identified it before a week of practice as a problem, and it was a problem. And I'm sure they'll make adjustments. They ended up spying pretty significantly, especially towards the end of the game. And Chad noted that the offense did look different in the second half than the first half, but the Ravens converted when they needed to, and even in the passing game, and they just looked like the better team. They were very well prepared. The defense, the addition of Jimmy Smith, was really, really good. And before we get into, I guess, like flow of the game, do you have any overall observations about or opinions about the game, Dylan? I know I've been kind of meandering.
No, I mean, I agree with you in terms of, I mean, Bill Belichick's never, I don't think, just going to like give up a game, right? Or play simple. I think a lot of that comes from like that process of thought is coming from people who assume or are predicting that these two will meet again, and are just kind of using that almost as an excuse, which I don't think is the case. To take like a real Patriots spin on it, I think that this game is incredibly helpful if they do end up meeting again in the playoffs. I think that will be more of an advantage for the Patriots than it will be for the Ravens. And honestly, the game, I mean, you know, I wanted them to win. I thought they could win. At the same time, like, the first half went pretty much how I expected. The first drive, they went down the field a little bit faster than I would have liked. But at the same time, I've gone through enough of this to kind of, you know, the Patriots can be down by 25 points and I'll still feel okay if there's enough time left. We're just kind of at that point now. And this is a team that is still really, really trying to figure out what it is. You know, Sony Michel has, I would say, taken a little bit of a step back this year. He's barely breaking tackles. He's had a couple good games recently, if you're looking at pure like fantasy numbers almost. But if you look at his yards per carry is like right around 3, if not under. Like, he's not breaking tackles. He's not making big runs. And then the irony is the receiving core, which at the beginning of the year, 2 games in, you're sitting there going, holy shit, it's Antonio Brown, it's Josh Gordon, it's Edelman, it's Dorsett, the N'Keal Harry's going to come back. And now it's like people are freaking out because there's no AB, there's no Gordon. Dorsett, I think, benefited from having those people around him. But I mean, there was a point when they first released AB, that Pats fans were sitting there going, it's fine, we have Dorsett. Because he was just taking advantage of the team's like 4th cornerback. And he's good. I mean, he's good enough. He's a starting receiver. Like, he's good enough to do that. But this team is still figuring out who it is. I think defensively, you know, the quarterbacks we've played have been not great. Aside from Big Ben in the very first game, which is always, you know, it's the first game. Like, it's basically a gimme. I mean, it's been nobody, honestly. And I would have no offense, I would have never picked the Browns against the Patriots for the things that I had said before. Like, any team that undisciplined, I don't think really has a chance. And, you know, even if you go back to like the old quote unquote, like the 2015, 2014 Seahawks teams, when they were in their main run, like, those teams were aggressive but not undisciplined. And I think that's something that can work. Anyways, that's a tangent.
No, that's good. We can just put that into New England offense, Ravens defense kind of analysis. For me, the story of when the Pats had the ball is different from any other time the Ravens have ever played the Patriots, because of the addition of Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith coming back when Brandon Carr was playing corner. And it wasn't as much as you'd expect because they actually played him at safety a lot, but they played 6 or 7 defensive backs a lot in this game. And you're going 3 deep at corner with Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, and Marcus Peters, who Mohamed Sanu kind of picked on. And
for 10 receptions.
Being able to match up against the wide receivers allowed Don Martindale to dial up blitzes, which Tom Brady normally obliterates you when you blitz him. But the blitzes were getting home, and Tom Brady was under pressure, and guys weren't open as much as they're accustomed to being open in New England. And I think that that's a problem for the Patriots. That's more than scheme. I think just straight up personnel-wise, the wide receiver position is an issue for the Patriots.
The Josh
specific
Gordon,
to this matchup
is frustrating. Well, on that same note, I think yes, I also think it's new, because right now people are keying on Edelman for good reason, and that's why Sanu goes off and has 10 catches, which I'm excited for Sanu. If you look at how they played him, Sanu played like 90% of his snaps in the slot in Atlanta, and I think he was like 60% not in the slot for that Ravens game. So it's gonna, like, the team is almost new 8 weeks in, or 9 weeks in, or whatever week it is, it's just going to be interesting to see how that develops with N'Keal Harry, who was on the roster but inactive for the Ravens game, who's going to come back, and just to see what he can do. Sanu getting more comfortable in the offense. Edelman is Edelman, but kind of just figuring out the dynamic between all of them. Plus, Dorsett is still good. Like, he's still going to be a part. You can't play 4 receivers every down, but
yeah, Jimmy Smith ripped his soul out.
Sorry, I was just curious because Edelman had 10 catches and so did Sanu. They both got theirs. They got open enough, but here's the one I noticed, and I didn't notice it during the game, so maybe you guys can tell me why you think this happened. James White, 2 catches for like 14 yards. How was he kept out of being an impact player?
It had to have been more than that because he had a long ass catch down the sideline
where he mossed Earl Thomas.
Yeah, he did. Maybe it was like 2 for 34 or something with just that long one, but
I think
go ahead.
I think part of it was the Ravens game planned the pass. I think if Sony Michel was able to get off, the Ravens were all right with it. The Patriots didn't do a lot of substituting in the game, so the Ravens would pretty much put a package on the field with a shitload of DBs, and they bring Chuck Clark down to play linebacker. So James White wasn't feasting on LJ Fort and Josh Bynes. Even when they put him out wide, it ended up being Earl Thomas who got cooked on a one-on-one. Like, what are you going to do? James White made an incredible catch. But other than that play, Earl Thomas was incredible. And I think that not allowing James White to just abuse linebackers in coverage went a long way. Sanu and Edelman both had 10 catches apiece, but other than like the big downfield throw, I think it was like a 30-something yard pass that Edelman caught that looked like it was way overthrown, and then Edelman made
a
pretty damn good catch on it. I was okay with them. They weren't gashing the Ravens. It was typical Edelman type of stuff, 6-7 yard catches. And I think if Tom Brady wants to feed Mohamed Sanu 10 times, like, you let it happen. But Earl Thomas kept everything in front. He capitalized on the big overthrow, which Brady had Judon right in his face and threw it too far, and Earl got the interception. But Earl's best play of the game was in the first half when the Patriots were in the red zone. And I wouldn't say he baited Tom Brady, because that's like disrespect to Tom Brady. But he made an incredible break and read on a pass to Julian Edelman in the end zone that led to the Patriots having to take a field goal in that first half when they were storming back.
You're not giving him enough credit. I remember that play. That was he knew he was going to Edelman. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He faded a little bit in the opposite direction, but the whole time you can tell he's looking right at Edelman, and Edelman breaks and he jumps on it. It was good.
Yeah.
I remember that play.
And not to be understated, Ed Reed was not just at the game on Sunday. He's been talking to the team all week. He's been at practices and things like that, if you follow any of the Ravens social media. So I'm pretty sure Ed Reed was in there coaching Earl Thomas and these DBs a little bit on Tom Brady. I'm thrilled with the way that the defense played. I still think that teams that are better running the football will be able to against them, even with Brandon Williams in there, just because the linebacking core is pretty weak. Losing Pernell McPhee hurts bad up front. But Sony Michel never really got going. Like Dylan said, he's kind of regressed a little bit this year, and it was unusual. The Ravens got pressure on Brady with the blitz, and there was no real crazy surprise stuff on offense as far as trick plays and things like that will show their faces in the playoffs if these two teams meet. But I can't say I was surprised by anything in the game other than effectiveness of the blitz. That was the story of it for me. Lots of pressure on Brady with the blitz.
The Ravens did a good job. I mean, they did what I expect the Patriots do to other teams, in the sense that they just went all out to defend one thing one way or the other, or they tried to take away the best thing and went all out doing that. And one of the biggest weaknesses for the Patriots, that they've a little bit like mitigated this year as opposed to last, they almost never throw the ball when Sony Michel is in the game. And they've tried to get away from that. I think he's got more catches this year already than he had all of last year. But the opposite is true as well. They almost always throw the ball when James White is in the game. They almost I don't know how many carries he has, but I can't imagine it's a lot. And so if you're seeing James White in the game and you're the Ravens, and this is what they did, you're throwing 6 defensive backs on the field and just defending the pass. And they have a good enough secondary to cover the receivers. It was a bit of a good timing game for them too, because again, for what I had said, you're looking at a Patriots team that just gave up Josh Gordon. They don't have N'Keal Harry, so it's Edelman, it's Sanu, who's been with the team for a week and a half, and it's Dorsett against Marlon, Jimmy, and Marcus Peters.
And those 3 pretty much played the whole game. You didn't really see Jacoby Meyer. You didn't.
Right. I mean, Myers is a good story. He's still an undrafted free agent. Like, he had a sick preseason. I'm glad he's on the roster. But he's not going to win a game for us. He might make one good catch. It was a good game. I'm disappointed that we lost. I'm disappointed that they put up, what was it, 37? But, we'll see how it goes. I'm still happy with our defense. I still think our secondary is probably the best in the league. I saw a nice little mid-season awards that had Stephon Gilmore as the Defensive Player of the Year, which made me happy. I don't know that he'll get it, but he's sick. I mean, Donta Hightower is sick. They had the shot. I was thinking of it when you were talking about Odell being pissed on the sideline. They had a shot of Donta Hightower on the sideline just screaming at people after the first. I can't remember after the first 2 drives.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they came out and played better. I think the team is good. It was a good game, and it's hard. Lamar's incredible. At this point, it's hard to argue anything against him. I still am a little bit nervous, every time he runs, because the last thing you want him to do is just get cracked by somebody, especially on an option when it's like a pitch. But at this point, he hasn't. He seems to kind of have a really good feel in terms of where he's going when he's running, whether that's behind the line of scrimmage or after it. And he was awesome.
Well, Joey's nervous every time he passes, because every time he throws the ball, he might just do some sidearm shit.
I have more faith in him to throw the ball than Baker.
Helmet. Throws it off the back of his offensive lineman's helmet.
That was funny. Yeah, that nice little sidearm to the back.
When Patrick Mahomes throws a ball fucking no look and throws it out of bounds because he used some dumb shit, everybody's just like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, so cute. Isn't the no-look pass so fun? And when Lamar Jackson tries to get cute and changes his arm angle and blasts it off the back of his left guard's head, Lamar Jackson is a bad quarterback. Look, we all told you he can't be a quarterback.
That comparison is comically ludicrous because of the success rate of each of those players on standard passes and seriously silly passes.
Chris Collinsworth, wasn't it Collinsworth gave Mahomes a pretty decent amount of shit for that throw when he just super overthrew Kelsey trying to do a no-look pass?
Yeah, it was a bad throw.
You're just sitting there maybe he should have looked.
Yeah, Joey's just being an idiot right now. And honestly, the first thing I wrote down when Brady threw that interception to Earl Thomas was dude, that's a Lamar Jackson throw. I saw him make that throw 8 times this preseason.
I tell you what, Tom Brady made more inexplicably inaccurate throws in this game, whether it's miscommunications with guys, overthrowing guys in the flat, things like that, than Lamar Jackson did.
I'd follow up on that. When we first started talking, I wasn't really surprised by especially the first half with how the Ravens offense was, because I kind of give, especially with Jackson, I'm watching it with the kind of idea of like they're gonna do just some weird shit, and then the second half will come, and the Patriots will have something.
Yeah, there's an acclamation,
right? Like you're just gonna like they're gonna do shit, and you're not like you can have Philip Dorsett. I don't know who played like Lamar Jackson in practice, but you can have Philip Dorsett play Lamar Jackson in practice. It's still not Lamar Jackson. Like it doesn't matter. But that first drive when they just got shut down and Brady's throw to the flat was like 10 yards over his head, that was surprising. And then the first time they tried to do the hurry up and they ran it in the middle twice and got stuffed both times and then had an incomplete pass, that was when I had a kind of a bad feeling about that game. But Brady didn't look great. You know, generally first halves this year, he's been a little bit iffy and then it's kind of picked it up. Wasn't a whole lot different this game, but this is the first year that I don't know that he's really regressed, but he definitely has looked a little more off this year, I would say, than really ever before.
Also, the injuries to Devlin and how thin the tight ends are really, I think, changed what the Patriots wanted to do this year, because I think they wanted to shift to more balance than we've seen in the past, because we've seen them effectively replace a run game with a short passing game before. But I think the plan this year was to be a legitimate power running team. Bill likes to use 2 tight ends and a fullback, and on the fly, because of injuries, they've had to kind of amend that. And I think we're probably still seeing some of the growing pains of that too.
The offense is incredibly malleable. The second half of last year, they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the league. I'm with you. I think they kind of went into this year planning to do the same thing. Devlin being hurt, David Andrews is starting centers on IR. The Isaiah Wynn, who is going to be the starting left tackle, is on short-term IR. He should be back in the next couple weeks. Shaq Mason was hurt. I think he's still hurt, like on the injury report. He played the Ravens game, but he didn't play the Browns game. They're a beat-up team. The receiving core is new. Michel's been less than his best, or at least less than last year. The defense has been carrying them through these games, which is why they're getting so much respect, I think. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm excited to see people get healthy. I'm excited to see N'Keal Harry step into the fold. I'm excited to see Sanu get more utilized, or at least more acclimated. I'm ready for Isaiah Wynn to come and just kind of see what happens at that point. But I mean, you bring up Devlin is for a fullback is a bigger loss than I think what people give credence to.
And my last one of the most joyous moments of the game was there was a play where Dorsett ran. It ended up being like a post, but it looked like maybe it was an option route, because he pretty much ran straight into Jimmy Smith, who was playing off the ball quite a little ways. And Jimmy kind of chucked him because he was holding his ground. And then Dorsett cut towards the post, and Brady flew through to the flag.
The intentional grounding.
Yeah. And there was no flag at first, and Brady was having a fucking fit, and then the refs threw a flag, and I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, they're just gonna let Brady fucking call that penalty for him. Like, this is garbage. And then they called intentional grounding on Brady, and I was
This is the Pats fan that I am. I knew it was grounding as soon as they threw the flag. I'm sitting there going, they're gonna fucking call that. They're just, I know they're gonna do that. I remember that though. He ran right at Jimmy and just boom.
Jimmy Smith is
the best part of the game.
Jimmy's like 6'2", 210 or some bullshit.
As physical or more physical than Marlon Humphrey. Jimmy Smith is it's funny because he's a very stark contrast to Marcus Peters, who wants none of that smoke. Marcus Peters would like to gentlemanly escort you to the sideline if you can every play. Let's run to the sideline together, buddy. So, and then while the Ravens had the ball, I mean, Lamar Jackson. I'm pretty sure he's the MVP of the league right now. I think Russell Wilson's in the conversation, but
I don't know why he's not
predicated
in the league
on Lamar.
Or in that
you say that. I'm more with Justin. I think it's more surprising that you don't hear his name more. I think Russell Wilson is kind of like popular,
he's like the go-to,
trendy,
is in the lead. But after Sunday night, you would have thought that was going to be Lamar's kind of breakout moment, and I think people are still going with Russell. But
Russell Wilson threw 5 touchdown passes.
Against the Buccaneers.
Lamar Jackson threw for 160 yards, and he averaged 3.8 yards per carry. If you didn't watch the game...
As good a running back as any.
That's fair. If you didn't watch the game, the stats don't show it. But if you watch the game, it was pretty clear.
If you're an NFL analyst and you were doing something else on Sunday night besides watching Lamar Jackson versus the Patriots...
Yeah, I still think Christian McCaffrey is the MVP, but that's not AFC North talk anymore.
He's my MVP.
Nick Chubb has more yards, total yards, doesn't he?
Than Lamar.
Christian McCaffrey's on pace for like 28.
No, not total yards.
Touchdowns.
It was something like yards per game, I think is what it was.
Well, you can't be the MVP on a losing team.
Exactly. No, I was what's up?
There's not a ton to say offensively, I don't think.
Shit, we haven't even talked about offense yet?
The Ravens, wake up, Justin. We'll wake you up when we're done.
Yeah.
The Ravens offense is just really good. We identified coming into the game, as did many, that the Patriots were susceptible to the run. Stephon Gilmore is the best player on that team, probably. The secondary is the strength of the defense. And the best way to neutralize that is to not be a team that relies on the pass. Hollywood Brown came back in this game, and he was pretty much matched up on Stephon Gilmore all game long. And Gilmore put the clamps on him for most of the game, as you would expect. But there was a couple plays that were schemed really well where, Lamar ran that little drag route across, and it's like, Stephon Gilmore has to deal with traffic, and Hollywood Brown is fast enough that if you can complete that, it's going to go for a big chunk of yards just about every time you can do it. The Ravens were passing for 4th and 4 conversions late in the game to Willie Snead. Lamar had a really nice 3rd down pass to Mark Andrews, who was kind of absent from the offense in the first half. And it was Hayden Hurst and Nick Boyle's show. So I think the Ravens did a really good job, I think, of maybe anticipating what the Pats would try to do, because nobody could have expected Nick Boyle to get off how he did, especially in the beginning of the game. But the way that Lamar makes your defensive line respect the edges and lane discipline leaves you very susceptible to Gus Edwards and Mark Ingram, who are both physical downhill runners, to just gash you. Mark Ingram had a great game again. He had 15 carries for 115 yards.
What surprised me the most is what I expected from that defense was for them to play it basically how they play Le'Veon, especially when Le'Veon was on the Steelers, which is don't go upfield. The whole scheme of the Pats defense against Le'Veon and what I expected this game was you basically hold the line of scrimmage. You don't go upfield, you hold it, and then you react to where they're going. And I didn't really feel like they did that really at all. And there were a lot of obvious mistakes, which is why I think this game, if they do meet again, will be a better learning experience for the Patriots than the Ravens. There's a lot of examples of Jamie Collins rushing way too far upfield, or not taking away the pitch player, his middle school level scheming for defense, to take away the pitch running back and make the quarterback go inside. There's so many examples of not just Jamie Collins, but of that defense either rushing too far up the field or going towards Lamar and Lamar pitching it out, going too far upfield and Lamar scooting up into the pocket or scooting up between the guard and the tackle and just giving himself 6 more seconds. I think that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that the Pats will adjust to. It's something that they'll be ready for next time, or at least, we'll have more. We'll see. It's still Lamar, but like, I think they'll be better at that should they meet again.
Yeah, it's just a lot to handle.
The offense was sick. Yeah, no, I mean,
it's a lot to handle.
It was an incredible addition to that team.
Yeah. So Lamar only had 3.8 yards a carry, but Ingram had 7.7 yards a carry. And
I love how you say only as a quarterback.
And you can say Ingram is great and the offensive line is good run blockers, but Lamar Jackson's responsible pretty significantly for Ingram's yards per carry average also, because of what he does to the defensive line and what he does to holding linebackers on option plays. And there was a play.
His option game is sick.
Yeah, there was a play in the third quarter where he was supposed to go to the right and it wasn't there because the Patriots played it well. And this is what you can't account for with Bill Belichick being a defensive wizard and your football team being disciplined, is they had it stuffed. They had the play stuffed by design, and then Lamar Jackson in a fucking phone booth made Dante Hightower miss to scamper out on the left side and still made a positive play out of it. And that's the type of stuff that you can't account for, and Lamar's better at it than any quarterback in the history of the NFL. You could argue Michael Vick did it better. I think you'd be wrong, but you could argue. So one guy, like Lamar Jackson, is a cheat code, and it will take mistakes by the offense to beat the Ravens offense. And they make them. Lamar will throw dumb interceptions and, but he's also really good and he's going to get his yards. He didn't even go off on the ground on this game, but the offense still looked like this machine.
That's the one thing that surprised me about the and because I didn't have a chance to kind of go back and rewatch it closely, I don't understand why it happened, except for maybe the Ravens jumped out to such a big early lead, is that I was sure that the Patriots would sell out on making Lamar throw to win this game. And they just weren't able to accomplish that, even if it was their goal, because Lamar and Ingram and the combination of those two is just clearly the strength of the offense. And like, especially a team like New England, who, like, dude, let Marquise Brown go one-on-one. Like, let him. Yeah. I don't care how fast he is. He's not going to win that matchup. Like, he's not. So, like,
yep.
I was really surprised they didn't sell out against the run, like 8-9 in the box, and just say, like, I dare you, Lamar. I dare you to just throw the ball accurately all day.
I think they tried to an extent. It wasn't as obvious, I think, as they've made it in the past. But one thing that the Ravens did too that was a good counter is they would basically come out, and they have this ability in like heavy sets. They'd come out with Andrews and Hurst and Boyle on the field with Lamar and Ingram. And you have to respect those tight ends, and I think the Patriots do. I think that's a big reason why we saw the result that we did, because I don't think they would have let themselves. I don't think they wanted to let the tight ends beat them, because I don't think you mentioned Hollywood Brown, and honestly, I think they put Gilmore on him, and that was it. That was the game plan for him. There was like nothing else was involved with him. I don't think they cared about any of the other receivers. I think Baltimore did a great job with keeping the majority of because you can't keeping the majority of the Patriots secondary off the field because you can't play Gilmore and Jason McCourty and Jonathan Jones and J.C. Jackson in addition to Devin McCourty and Chung or Duron Harmon or whoever. You can't play 6 defensive backs when the Ravens are coming out with 3 tight ends. And ultimately that's the main strength of your team. I can, sit here and say John Simon is a good player, but John Simon is John Simon, and he played probably more snaps than J.C. Jackson did.
He's
and I know Jason McCourty got subbed out for Jonathan Jones at a certain point. I think in the second half when they started having Jones spy, and it was literally Gilmore on Brown, Jones spying Lamar, and then like a heavy package. I think that's what it was. I think they respect their tight ends that much that they just couldn't go all out heavy. I don't know. I think that's the reason why it didn't seem as Patriots I guess would be the word, would be the phrase, as I would have expected as well. And I think Baltimore is equally as responsible for that.
Congratulations, you're now Super Bowl favorites.
The Ravens, actually good.
Listen, congratulations, you won your October Super Bowl. I hope that your defensive coordinator and his gold chain, I hope that photo gets framed.
Fucking love that guy
just so that we can see it again in January when they lose.
Oh. Well, yeah,
that's okay. Mark Ingram will be giving you flashbacks to Ray Rice.
Nothing like a defensive team photo in October, am I right? Patriots world falling apart when we're 8-1.
Hey, look, man, you said it yourself. Tom Brady just wasn't really looking that great. He's regressing. Yeah. He's getting too old to play. He's
played
just
the Steelers.
You know that.
You had James Conner then, and Ben.
Dude, we all know what that game is. We know.
Listen, all I know is you had Ben and Conner and Juju.
No Minka.
Well,
that's true. Now you just get to have a quarterback who's 38 with Tommy John surgery coming back next year. But hooray for Minka.
Maybe we do.
Yeah, we'll see. So
I'm the year after.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty to talk about when the Patriots play the Bengals later this year. But we would still at least like to have you on probably during the postseason, regardless of who makes it in or if they're playing the AFC North. So hopefully we can arrange this again.
There, so
that's what I'm saying. Regardless of who they're playing,
AFC North team will be in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. If they don't play each other, still,
Listen, in the words of Bill Simmons, find me 6 AFC playoff teams. It's very hard to do.
It's hard, yeah.
It's not a great division.
I can give you 4 division winners, and then after that, it is kind of slim pickings.
Yeah.
Unless you really believe that the Bills are legit.
We'll see next week. Yeah. But anyways, we're gonna
the measuring stick that is the Browns.
I know, that was a joke. That was the joke. But let's go ahead and wrap this one up.
Players of the week.
We're getting kind of late. We're already at an hour and a half.
Okay, here, I'll give them to you then. Lamar, offensive player of the week. Don Martindale, defensive player of the week, with his gold chain out.
I would go Mark Ingram, since he had the stats and he was running with power and he was significant. And
running with agility too. He looked pretty nimble a couple times, pretty quick out there. I was actually surprised.
How about Minka, the first Steelers defensive back to record 4 interceptions since 2010 when Palomalu did it? Did
he have 4 interceptions this week, Chad?
He had one for 96-yard touchdown. I would think that Ed Reed was probably watching the Steelers thinking about how cool that is during that moment.
You were making fun of Quentin Nelson. Didn't Quentin Nelson just like lay some Steeler out on that interception return though?
No, he got knocked down by Ola Adini. You're going to remember that name.
I think he smashed him and then just fell down after he knocked him on his ass.
Look, it's Quentin Nelson. We can talk about who smashed who. But he definitely got smashed and hurt his quarterback. It's his livelihood to protect that man.
Listen, it's hard for a 330-pound man to run full speed and knock another dude on his ass and stay upright.
For the record, though, he was the closest person to tackling Minka on that play. He ran really far. That was like really impressive.
Yeah.
He's a scary guy.
I think, honestly, though, at a certain point he didn't even care. He just wanted to hit that Steelers player.
It's Ola. Say his name.
Sorry.
Say it.
Are you sure it wasn't Ufamba?
Oh,
wait,
no,
that was the Ravens. Ufamba.
All right.
All
right, players of the week. I agree. I think Mark Ingram and Minka are probably the players to go.
There you go.
All right.
Justin, Joe Schobert.
Yeah, Joe Schobert, Nick Chubb.
Jermaine Whitehead.
Yeah, Jermaine Whitehead and Dontrell Hilliard. But anyways,
I did have one note about Joe Schobert just totally botching coverage on one of the Noah Fant receptions. Mm-hmm. He really missed it bad.
But he made the tackle.
He did make the tackle like 30 yards down.
It's like the same thing like with, anyways. I was going to say Pick'em winner. Actually, you know who the Pick'em winner was this week?
It's the people's picks again?
No.
I know they were towards the top. I know it wasn't me. I got butt fucked this week and pick 'em.
It was Chad.
Oh!
I did not know, and I am in no way surprised.
Yeah, the 3 games you got wrong were Detroit, Green Bay, and Cleveland. But 11 games. So congratulations on that.
Solid.
But yeah, so we're going to wrap this one up. So Thursday, we're going to have some more shit Thursday game where it's like the Chargers and the Raiders, I think.
Sure is.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So, but anyways, we'll be here talking to electrify your Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Check us out, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. But we're going to preview the the Week 10 games. So it'll be good stuff. It'll be fun. But in the meantime, talk to us about who you thought the player of the week might have been. Go ahead and vote in some polls that we'll put up. I don't know. I don't know. Do we have any good ones this week? But yeah. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that other good stuff.
Tell me more about how the Patriots dynasty is over for the year in a row.
The Patriots dynasty is over. Hey, what about...
Ravens defense is back.
Listen, the Patriots don't like being 8-0, okay? They lost the game on purpose. They don't want undefeated season pressure. They don't need that.
No,
they don't need that distraction.
They don't need that distraction, exactly.
Give the Ravens hope.
They can't be 1 seed home team through the playoff underdogs in the Super Bowl. Everybody thinks we're going to lose. The whole world is against us, New England Patriots, if they go undefeated. So
that's exactly right. Gotta have a chip.
All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
14-2.
We'll catch you Thursday.